the CDBG project to please step forward to the microphone and give your name, address, and your testimony. Second call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 102-16. And this is the third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 102-16, the CDBG block grant funding program for sidewalks on K Street. Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing.
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moving to item B, Agenda Bill 103-16, a public hearing regarding the Transportation Capital Facilities Plan Pavement Management Program. Well, Mitch, you're back so quickly.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you, Mayor, Council. We have 3 public hearings this evening. I've done one presentation, but I have separate action items that I'm going to be requesting. But so that we're all clear, I have a Transportation Capital Facility Plan, the Pavement Management Program, Water System Plan for the Automated Meter Reading Program, and amendments to Chapter 2 of the Parks Capital Facility Plan. Now, as I mentioned, all 3 of these were processed at the same time, and so these dates I'm about to give apply to all 3 of the proposed amendments. So joint notice of application and likely SEPA determination was issued and published on September 23rd, 2016, and that SEPA was deemed final on October 10th, 2016. The Planning Commission work sessions were held on September 27th, 2016, and October 25th, 2016. Your City Council workshop was held on October 24th, 2016, and the Planning Commission held hearings on all 3 of the items on October 25th, 2016. And then public hearing notice was published on November 11th, 2016 for tonight's hearings. So all of those dates apply for all 3 of the proposed, for all of the public hearing items. So first, Agenda Bill 103-16. Transportation Capital Facility Plan. We are adding this proposed language. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is added to Section 4 in the Capital Facility Plan under proposed improvements and costs, and it's related to the Pavement Management Program. And really what this language does is cement our ability to utilize REIT funding for our Pavement Management Program. It puts that language in our Transportation Capital Facility Plan. The Planning Commission recommendation to the Council was to approve the proposed amendments, and the recommended action to you is to hold a public hearing to take public testimony. If Council desires, make a motion to authorize the City Attorney to read the ordinance by title only and pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Thank you, Mitch. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 103-16 to please step forward. Second call for any members of the public that would like to speak to the City of Washougal Transportation Capital Facilities Plan. And this is the third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 103-16. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the city attorney read the ordinance by title only.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1792 to amend the City of Washougal's Transportation Capital Facilities Plan, adding language regarding the city's pavement management program.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Is there any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving to Agenda Bill 104-16, a public hearing on the Water System Plan, Automated Meter Reading.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Again, Agenda Bill 104-16. This amendment to our water system plan adds the automated meter reading project to the water system plan, the AMR. You will note that the dates for the phasing were revised from the work session. I talked about that at the time, that we were moving those out, but it's still a very worthwhile project that we want to have in the water system plan. But we are moving those dates out. Phase 1 is 2018 to 2019. Phase 2, 19 to 20, and Phase 3, 20 to 21. We'll continue to chase grants for the overall project. The Planning Commission deliberated on October 25th, and their recommendation to you was to approve the proposed amendments to the water system plan. The recommended action is to hold a public hearing to take public testimony. Council desires make a motion to authorize the mayor to the city attorney to read the ordinance by title only and pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 104-16 to please come forward. Second call for any members of the public that would like to speak to our water system plan automated meter reading program. And this is the third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 104-16. Hearing no speakers, I'll turn it back to council.
Mitch, this doesn't mean that we're going to get, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
Okay. This doesn't mean we're going to get automated meters, does it?
Not immediately. We have some now that we have from the pilot program, but this just keeps it in the comprehensive plan so
So
we can
we can use funded,
we can chase grants for it.
Chase.
okay, I'm sorry.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we authorize the city attorney to read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objections ordered.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1796 to adopt an update to the City of Washougal's water system plan, adding the automated meter reading AMR project.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second,
I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Council discussion. Did you have any? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I should have mentioned for the public, even back to the last item, when we were discussing the pavement management program, for those of you that weren't here during our lively budget discussions for the last few months moving up to it, we actually do have a pavement management program that we have here within the city. And your city council has directed us over the years to add more money to that. I think it's safe to say 5 years ago, maybe even just 4 years ago, we were only spending about $150,000 a year. We moved that up to $360, and now it is budgeted for 2017 at $750,000 a year. So no additional taxes for anybody, but reallocating monies and trying to be a little bit smarter in some of the areas we are so that we can add some more money into that so that we actually have asphalt hitting the roadways and are rebuilding some of those areas and taking care of things in a much better way. Won't get us a lot of new streets, but the idea is that we at least maintain our management program to where our street index is where it has been, which, surprise to us, we're actually scoring better than the city of Camas is on some of those things. So a little bit of background for that one. For this one, we have had the automated meter reading. We have had a pilot program that we started, Trevor, 2 years ago in some of the downtown area.
Yeah, 2 years.
That actually, if you walk downtown on the sidewalks, you'll see little black circles and bumps in the sidewalk some areas, and those are the automated meter reading. Help me out.
They're ERT sensors, electronic radio transmitters.
Okay.
So there's about 150 in the downtown that were part of the pilot. So instead of a touchpad to the surface of the lid, it's an ERT as far as the sensor to send it to the electronic system here at City Hall.
So our hope is that at some point throughout the entire city, we have those installed so that we no longer have meter readers that go around on a bi-monthly basis and read your meters. It automatically uploads You can actually look at things from home on your computer as far as your usage, that type of stuff on a daily or hourly basis if you wanted to. We could certainly do it from City Hall as well instantly while you're asking questions in regards to your utility bills, so.
And it might make monthly billing a little easier if we decide to go that way.
Jennifer's pulling out her daggers back there on the back wall. It will certainly add to the discussion, yes. So, that kind of brings you up to speed a little bit on two of those items with some of the background. Paul?
One big advantage to the automated meter reading is that you can set triggers so that if all of a sudden somebody's using twice as much water as they used to, you say, gee, maybe they've got a leak and maybe we ought to call them and let them know. If you have to wait every 2 months to look at that, that's...
Let's see, moving to item D, a public hearing on our Parks Plan update.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, Agenda Bill 10516. This is an update to the Parks Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 2, our Demand and Needs Assessment Chapter. Really just clarifying some issues, updating our current and future population estimates to be consistent with our overall comprehensive plan, corrects park holdings, acreages, and then the other minor corrections throughout the chapter. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the amendments to Chapter 2 of the Washougal's Comprehensive Parks Plan, and the recommended action to you is to hold a public hearing to take public testimony. If council desires, make a motion to authorize the city attorney to read the ordinance by title only and pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Thank you, Mitch. With that, I will open the public hearing and ask any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 105-16 to please step forward. Second call for any members of the public that would like to speak to the Parks Plan update. And this is the third and final call for any members of the public that would like to speak to Agenda Bill 105-16. Okay, hearing none, I will turn it back over to council.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the city attorney read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1791 to update the demands and needs assessment chapter of the City of Washougal's Parks Capital Facilities Plan.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Jennifer, do you want to wait just a few minutes? Do you care?
Sure.
Okay, council, we have our, part of our bond council who is actually on the road from Seattle down here, for the next two items. So if you don't mind, we will go ahead and take up, the added item, which is the development agreement for Granite 3, and see if they make it in the time that we have. Okay, Mitch?
Thank you. Scott, you want to come on up there and I'll start?
Need me at the podium? or
You
table?
can sit there. There's actually mics there. Real quick background again. The Granite 3 development, this is in the Woodburn Hill sub-area, and so they are seeking a development agreement due to the moratorium that we have in the area. That moratorium is 1805, and again, they need the DA in order to move forward with development. Here is that property on our zoning map, R175 zoning designation. And this is the latest map, and he's actually got one up there too. Scott and the team, they went back and looked at to try to address the trails questions that we had. And I'll turn it over to Scott to kind of hit the highlights there.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you again before you get started for fielding the questions from the Cub Scouts last week.
That was entertaining to say the least. Flashbacks to my days as a Cub Scout and Boy Scout. So they did a good job. I appreciate you guys' time and efforts and questions in advance. So what we've done is with the highlighted plan, it shows what the black and white plan on the monitors demonstrates, looking at all the options for trails inside the development, connecting to existing roads, other trail connections or access paths, and dead-end sidewalks, dead-end road stubs. And so on the perimeter of the site, you'll see a lot of the larger asterisks that have some green highlighted here, and so those are sort of nodes or connection points. One interesting one is on the south central portion of the site, there's an existing stormwater facility, and on the south end of that facility, there's an paved access pathway that goes back and dead ends. I think it's a great opportunity to utilize that for a trail connection into the existing neighborhood. So North 7th Street and North U Street, right there, that's a dead-end road currently in a storm facility with likely future development to the south. So that's one of the connections that would get you to the adjacent developments. There's some opportunities for looping trails in the southeastern corner of the project. So around the existing wetlands in some of the buffers, there's a 50-foot buffer off of that type of a wetland. So there's a lot of opportunity there where you have uplands, so they're not wet ground. You have existing trees and shrubs and open areas that you could do these pervious pathways. They'd be bark chip type pathways in these sensitive areas that would allow access to and through those areas. There's some existing connections and crossings which would be utilized. There's an existing bluff right where it says open phase 5. There's a gathering or cluster there of existing white oak trees, and there's an opportunity there for a looped trail that has like a lookout on top. And so it's a pretty unique land feature and a good opportunity for a trail location. I know there's been discussion with concern with trails, and that's a common situation that comes up with neighbors and property owners and people who live by trails. And so real briefly, I think some of the issues that were brought up were, access to these areas, providing additional access, fencing, I think is one opportunity to limit access off of trail areas and contain trail goers that sort of connect from one spot to another where roads don't connect. The nice piece of these trails is that they do connect these developments where roads cannot connect them due to either topography or right-of-way availability or other constraints. So some areas where some of these trails have worked well and I've enjoyed with my family locally, a local Lacamas Creek Trail that comes up from 3rd and goes up Lacamas Creek to Lacamas Lake, and Round Lake Trail's another one. There's a nice trail system on top of Prune Hill that another development I'm working with is contributing to and connecting. And so those are some steeper trails that have been paved. I like the bark chip trails a little better than some of the steep asphalt trails. And this kind of a development would benefit mostly from the bark chip trails in our open space tracks. Those trail systems utilize sort of dusk till dawn hours of operation. And so that's what would be similar on this project for the large open space and some of the northeastern corners. Some of the other trail tracks would be more of a dusk till dawn type usage, not open 24 hours. So you would provide signage to try and promote that and discourage, the after hours use. Litter can be a problem, so trying to figure out garbage cans and trash pickup, trying to have an HOA try and help out with that. Lighting can be used at some of these areas. Trying to keep the trails close or within eyeshot of the road systems, where our police and law enforcement can see these areas and safe areas that can be viewed from the roadways and easily monitored. So those are all some concepts of how to try and improve on these concerns and the use of these trail systems. All those kind of things can get worked out through project approvals, such as this project, seeking a preliminary approval in the future with county or with city staff and the council after the developer agreement is in place and the project is allowed to move forward. So sort of back to where we're at tonight, discussing the developer agreement the additional opportunity for trails in this project. The blue areas are stormwater and the large wetland. And so some of those stormwater facilities can work well to have trails adjacent. And you always need access to these utilities for stormwater structures, maintenance, similar to what you need for sewer lines. So a lot of mixed uses, combining uses, and trying to be efficient. Again, we're preserving majority of all the white oak trees on site have been identified so far. The project at the next step after the developer agreement and in the 2017 year is going to be working through site surveying with Minister Glazer surveying. And so some of these trail connections through the wetlands, some of the existing trail stubs and access roads and pathways will be confirmed in the following months with a site survey and located on the maps. It is somewhat generalized, but we're definitely getting more refined with our layout and trails, roads, lots as the project's going forward. So we have added a parcel that's on the western edge of the site. I was unaware before and didn't follow up looking into the ownership. Granite 3 has also purchased the piece of property that Mitch is highlighting on the monitors. So that far western edge, that is one existing piece of property. It actually has a split and there's a wedge of property under the power lines that wouldn't ever be developed. It would remain a remainder parcel. But this parcel on the western edge has an opportunity for a couple lots. It would be bisected by Y Street up there at the top. And so that they're in favor of dedicating the right of way. It makes sense to include this piece of property and these 4 potential lots within the developer agreement and the Granite Highlands subdivision. So those lots have been added into these plans since our last meeting.
So just to be clear, you got, call it a dozen or more of your green asterisks on there. We're not talking about turning all of those into trails, but they're just possibles and
Correct.
ones that could be under consideration, that type of stuff, but
Correct.
I just don't want the council to get the idea that you're gonna develop a trail off of every one of those in there.
Yes, there are a number of existing trails out there on site that lead up to the water towers because of an existing access gravel road and pathway that's been cut in. And I've hiked it a couple times with site analysis, but it does prove that, you know, even with the steep slopes, you can still provide trails up through some of those areas. Some of those would be best if we could reuse those existing gravel trails and sort of, like I said, with surveying work in the future, will be firmly located, you know, exact locations of where those existing trails are. But yeah, definitely opportunities on the northern edge for some of the most, you know, spectacular views up there. There's great views across the site when you get out on some of these benches and knolls. And trying to take advantage of those for the trails and for the public. They would utilize the road system and existing site or proposed sidewalks with their road improvements that'd be able to link these other trail areas and link pedestrians through the entire site. It is that south central portion and then the northeast portion of the site that have some of the best opportunities for a trail network or loops.
And that northeast area is up to our existing water tower.
Correct. Yeah, there are the existing water mains through the site, and so that follows those.
Council, questions, concerns? Paul?
No, I just wanted to say I like what you've done.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for, I mean, these trails are on your property and in the development. And I know within our development, I don't think there's anybody that complains about the trails going within the development. So I thank you for addressing the issue, though, of what we might encounter in the future in regards to others. But when it's within the development like that, the trails, I think you're buying into it as a purchaser of the property as well, knowing that a trail has already been established within the property.
Definitely amenity.
Yeah, and thanks for answering the Boy Scouts. It's the one thing they said, they wanted more trails and more parks, and I think the people that buy into this development will be appreciative of it too. Thanks for
You missed it,
addressing our
Brett.
concerns.
Yeah,
He got grilled for 30 minutes by
Yeah.
all these scouts, so.
an HOA will be set up to maintain the trails.
So there's two opportunities here for trail maintenance and ownership. If the city is so willing and interested, and it helps facilitate the capital facilities plan, they would like to dedicate some of these trail systems, possibly in exchange for park impact fee credits. If it's not gonna work out for one reason or another, whether it's maintenance, legalities, ownership, anything else, because it's not a simple process to dedicate lands, then they would be privately maintained. You would likely have easements over them, at least recorded, to sort of memorialize where they're at and the quantity of trails and stuff like that, so.
I would just interject, we have to work with the developer still to work out the last bits of language for the DA between now and the hearing about how we'll do this, how we'll talk about these trails in the DA. And I think there's a nice middle ground where we don't take on all of the maintenance responsibilities in perpetuity that are beyond our scope, but are able to put an ownership structure, an easement, public easement structure in place. And I'm looking at the attorney and Mitch, where there's some credits that might be available. So I think we can figure something out here within the next 10 days prior to the hearing. That would look good in the DA.
Paul?
Very quickly, retention facilities, anytime you're retaining water, the Clark County Mosquito Control Board needs access to it.
Yes, yeah, and you will also for just maintaining the facilities, getting into the outlet control structures and any structures that are coming, and so in and out of these facilities. So the largest storm tract in the south central portion of the site would have stormwater treated further up on the roadways, come down into that treatment detention facility. So it'd be detained there, and then it gets released at a metered rate into the wetland buffer, and it maintains the hydrology of that wetland. But yes, you're gonna have a manhole with an inlet structure at the back of that needs access, and so, yeah, it works a lot better sometimes to, if you're gonna pave a low access road or put a gravel access road to the back corner of a facility, use that for a trail. So it's already got fencing around the facility, adds some signage and lighting, and works really well.
Yeah, I used to be on mosquito control board, and it's been an increasing problem that you create these retention facilities where you've got stagnant water that's nigh on impossible to treat to prevent mosquitoes. And it's a disease prevention issue.
Yep.
Michelle?
Did you say you were in the midst of a traffic study?
Correct.
And you're still looking into that now, or?
Correct, yes, Kittleson and Associates is preparing that. They just sent us updated traffic counts today for the project with these additional lots and the final revision. And so they're working as hard as they can to get that produced by the end of the month. So you guys will have a week plus to look at that before the hearing, so.
And that will give some guidance as to whether they think there needs to be any kind of buffering or push out on the road going into the development. Was that?
They'll look at volumes and
Yeah.
they'll look at levels of service. I think we'll look pretty well, pretty good with the LeBrun Road and the larger width roadways. We have parking on both sides where opportunities are. Levels of service out here, because we're at the very top corner of the site, are really high, so there's no concerns there. It's as you go down the hill and back into town, areas like 18th and O Street and Washougal River Road, that intersection. So that's what they're looking closely at, is those, and making sure that the levels of service will be adequate. And if not, what mitigation we'll need to propose, turn lanes or contributions to bigger improvements, and that'll all be included in there. And so we're optimistic that the levels of service will still maintain, adequate levels of service. I think one of the bigger concerns is by fire and emergency services and just the steep grade of 8th and getting up there. And so the roads are all plenty wide and provide good access. They just like that opportunity for a second access into there. So the connection down to T Street would provide that for this development. So, welcome.
What's the time frame as far as starting to develop and build out on the lots?
So the goal would be in early 2017, bring a preliminary application to the city for review. And so a traditional type 3 with a final public hearing, via SEPA and full subdivision review. And so that's a few months worth of approvals. And then we'd need final engineering, which is a few more months. And so the goal would be like a first phase or two towards the middle to end of the next construction season. And so that would be the earliest, would be a 2017 phase 1 or 2 or phase 4 and 1 sort of approach. So there are a couple phases in this project which lend themselves to a simpler design and approval. There's 4 lots here in phase 4, which would actually utilize the existing Stone Gate Drive. And so they're a little separated from the rest of the development. And then there's phase 1, which has 9 lots in it. There's 10 lots here total. These top 4 lots would work much better taking access from the north, but with a cul-de-sac and minimal improvements here, you could have a pretty simple phase of construction that would finish off V Street. So that might be a good opportunity to push that into the first construction phase. Stormwater all is its own entity there. Phase 1 and phase 2 and 3 make up the majority of the site. I believe those are like 60 and 66 lots. And so those would be the biggest construction design challenge, and likely a 2018 and then 2019 with all these phases, 3 to 4 years of approvals and reviews and construction for this size of a project.
Other questions? Okay. Turning on to December 5th.
Again,
Thank you.
Good chance I'm gonna miss this. I think this is an excellent project, and I look forward to seeing the final draft, and I may make comments to staff about that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jennifer, bouncing back to items E and F, an ordinance regarding utility revenue bond refinancing and 2016 budget amendments for the saving money.
Yeah.
Doing well. Good to see you.
Should be, yeah.
We have before you tonight, Scott with K&L Gates. He got a little stuck in traffic on his way down. I have no idea how long it took him from Seattle,
Didn't hold us up at all.
but it was longer than it should have. Poor guy. But we have an opportunity. Jim came to the workshop and talked to us about an opportunity to refinance some of the existing 2011 utility bonds. And it looks like we can save roughly $60,000 a year for an overall savings of $900,000. That number's still in flux a little bit because the market has been inching up a little bit with the election results and some other economic indicators. But the net present value savings of 5% or better is the benchmark, and we're still well above the 5% mark. So our recommendation currently is to move forward with passing the ordinance tonight, and then we'll do our practice call with D.A. Davidson on the 28th, I believe, and then we'll do the real call with S&P on the 29th. And then we'll price the market out early December. And we still have the opportunity that if that savings drops to a point where it's not worth it, we can still pull out at that point. So I didn't know if you had any notes or comments? Or...
No, just a few notes on the resolution as per normal, just to remind you it's a delegating resolution like the other ones. And thank you again for having me out. I appreciate the opportunity to show up. I always love your facility. It's a pleasure to come down every time. Your resolution is a delegating resolution, just like the last one. So just as Jennifer was saying, you have the opportunity to extend this into 2017 if market timings looks like it'll be better to go in January instead of trying to do it during the holiday season. You've built in that flexibility. No matter when you go to market, you've got your same pricing parameters. So you're putting the box around it for the delegation. Has to be 4% savings. You're not going to go forward. There's also a true interest cost ceiling on it at 3.9%. So you can't massage the numbers to get some horrifying rates up front, but you can be assured that it won't be higher than that 3.9. There's a report back to you at the end of it, and within those bounds, you're authorizing the issuance of up to $10 million to do an advance for funding, a very far advance for funding of your 2011 bonds, which are callable in early 2021.
So with that, the recommended action is to read the ordinance by title only and pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the city attorney read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
An ordinance of the City of Washougal, Washington, providing for the issuance of water and sewer revenue refunding bonds of the city in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $10 million, to provide funds necessary to refund outstanding water and sewer revenue bonds of the city, delegating authority to approve the final terms of the bonds, and reserving the right to issue revenue bonds in the future on a parity with the bonds herein authorized upon compliance with certain conditions.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
Got a motion to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Council discussion.
I just have a question. I notice we have 5-year call dates in these.
That's an IRS requirement. You have to reference a call feature one way or another.
Okay.
So if you believe they're not going to be callable, you say a call no less than 5.5 years. So the bonds have to be outstanding for at least 5.5 years. If you're planning on structuring them to be callable, then you specify not more than 10.5 years typically, so you can plan for a 10-year call. So it's really just accommodating a requirement of state and federal law that you talk about call dates.
Right, but the bond issue I was involved in heavily was a 10-year call date. Why would you have a longer call date or a shorter call date?
10 years is very much the market standard.
Okay.
To the extent you're going to have a call on these, which is still probably under discussion, absolutely, because they're going to be about 15-year bonds, so there'll probably still be a 10-year call date.
Okay.
But we've provided the basement instead of the ceiling.
You
in this
just,
case.
I just wanted to educate
Yeah.
a little bit on call dates because 10 years has been a pain in some of these that I've worked with.
Other questions? So Scott, do you recall what the Fed meeting date is in December?
Oh, I do not, I'm sorry. If you give me 5 seconds on my phone, I can look smarter than I am,
The
but,
day before is your deadline on this sucker.
okay.
Oh, I think they make that into the interest rates, haven't they?
Yeah, rational expectations exist.
So it's already moving up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point, and I'm sure Jim is tracking, but to the extent he isn't, I'll touch base with him and make sure
Not a
he's
worry.
cognizant of getting ahead of expectations.
Certainly the sooner better than later.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Let's amend some budgets.
All right, so in order to accommodate the potential refinancing by the end of the year, the 2016 budget needs to be amended. We don't actually collect the money, but with accounting standards and the state auditors, we have to record it as if we received the money and then paid it back out. So we need to do a budget amendment to increase the Fund 401 by 10 million and then the expenditures by 10 million as well. The recommended action is to read the ordinance by title only and pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that the city attorney read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objections, so ordered.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1784, adopting the annual budget of the City of Washougal for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2016.
Mr. Mayor, I move we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you for making the trip.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Yeah.
That brings us back for the second opportunity for any members of the public that would like to address council. Okay. Hearing none, the only item that, oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just slow.
Margaret, I thought you were just stretching there.
I was trying to get out of the chair. Okay, so I am Margaret McCarthy from Washougal by the motocross. So And I just wanted to address the mayor and the council and to applaud your efforts to reach out to your constituents, as well as those that might have opposing views, as well as your youth, and to get a voice from everybody on the council, from your community. So I appreciate that. I also wanted to speak on behalf of Unite. We, as you may have heard, we are a coalition of every part of our community working together to make it a healthy place for families, and part of that is trying to reduce substance abuse and underage drinking. We received a grant from Drug Free Communities, from the Office of Drug Control Policy and President and several other federal organizations. And the two goals of that grant, number one is community collaboration, whatever that looks like in our community. We're doing a lot of collaborating. We've been here 4 years in Unite, and I've seen a tremendous amount of growth of people reaching out and be able to say, I know who I can talk to at City Hall. I know who I can talk to at the school district or in other areas of our community. So I just applaud that. And so that helped us to be able to get this grant, which will bring much more environmental type strategies to our community, to bring us connected, and which helps reduce risk factors associated with drug use among youth. And so to celebrate that, we are having a celebration December 1st at the Best Western at 6 o'clock. The wonderful and world famous, well, maybe not world famous, what are they called? The Festive Woodwinds and the Jolly Brass will be there at 5:30. There'll be refreshments served, and we'll talk a little bit about where we've been and where we're going and how we can all work together to make it a healthy community. So we have some invitations that I'm sure this lovely young lady would love to hand out. And so if you have any questions, there's a contact information on there. So thanks again for all you do for our community.
Now, Margaret, don't be shy about this. That was just a small grant, right?
So the grant is for $625,000 for 5 years, and in 5 years we can apply for another $625,000. So it's a grant that needs to be matched, so that each year it's $125,000 from the federal government, and we need match from the community for that. A lot of that match is provided by volunteer hours. It's also provided by some of our talented people in our community with their web design and their media outreach, as well as the school district and our strong partners we have all over this community. So it's everybody working together. It really is. It's all the little pieces. Next time I'll come and talk about our survey, which can be one of the ways you can help us. So,
Dave, would it be inappropriate for us to put Unite together with our health insurers to talk about potential actual grant dollars from them to go towards it as well?
We can ask them. I mean, we don't have a direct relationship with the insurance companies. It's through the trust.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we can't reach out to those companies. I don't know if they provide grants in this program area, but they might to
Kaiser.
communities, out to communities. It's possible. The Kaiser Foundation.
and we work with Kaiser. We're always looking for partnerships because this is public money, and so we're always looking for ways to make that go further and more. How do we, every part of our community, no part of our community, we want everyone to have a voice and to feel, a part of making any kind of, a solution, they're part of that. And so we work with Kaiser a little through Prevent on a drug take-back. They've stepped up big time through the county, so that would be a great place to start to talk to them, so.
I can talk to you and to you. There's a term of art, community benefit, which is in the IRS code that is applicable to what you're talking about.
I was thinking it's obviously in the best interest of all the medical insurers, County Board of Health.
Right,
I don't know whether they've got dollars, not dollars, but
and as well as
you've already
environmental.
done the heavy part of the whole thing,
Yeah.
so.
It's part of environmental health too. I mean, when it comes to, when you talk about easements and right of access and stormwater, runoff, the healthier we can make every part of our community, the better we can raise healthy kids ready to take on the world, so.
Thank you for your efforts and thank you for staying with it.
You bet. Thanks for all of your help.
You bet. Okay. Anyone else that would like to address council? Okay, under mayor's report, I have just one item for you, and that's for your calendars. December 8th, lighted Christmas parade downtown and tree lighting. I will not be here that evening. I have meetings in Seattle that day and the next day as well, so I will not be here for those. Items from council members. Brent?
I think, like I've said for the third time, I won't be here on the 5th of December. I have comp plan issues with a certain city, major city, larger city to the west, not Camas, and interesting issues. Their comp plan changes are a little more involved than ours. That's all I'll say.
Okay. Michelle?
Parks Board meeting, December 1st, 3:30, here on Thursdays. That's it.
Washougal Festival of Trees coming up on the 2nd and 3rd at Hathaway Elementary School. Please come bid on our trees. I'm helping to decorate one for the Washougal Schools Foundation, and I know the city's doing one, and of course, all of the individual schools themselves will be doing one as well, so a lot of other nonprofits.
David?
Public Safety Committee met today at noon in these chambers to review the blasting ordinance changes proposed by the Camas-Washougal Fire Department Fire Marshal, our former chief, Ron Schumacher. And the council, the representatives of that committee were unanimous in their agreement that we ought to support these. They're coming before the Camas Council in a workshop tonight, and they'll be voted on in 2 weeks. We have to approve those now under the new agreement. So they'll be back on the agenda in 2 weeks, I assume? On the 5th?
Either the
Have they
5th or the
workshopped here?
9th.
Have they workshopped at council yet?
No, they have not been.
Yeah,
No.
so generally our practice would be, I don't know if we'll, I haven't heard from Ron. I don't know if we'll be workshopping them on the 5th. We might be, this is a January package.
To aid the workshop effort, I sent out the notes on the meeting today, which included the changes from that he proposed to us today.
Camas will have their meeting on the 5th as well. So if he's workshopping it tonight, they may be looking for adoption that night.
I think they
But-
are.
We may be a little behind.
Our workshops are ahead of their council meetings, so.
The 5th would be nice. If we can't do it, we can't do it.
He has to go to the planning commission. Mitch
Okay.
just whispered in my ear from over there.
We have a date that we have to change, because the standards say, the code says that date, the blasting ordinance adopted on that date, so we have to change that date in the planning, in the zoning code.
Oh, that's really technical.
That's what your council, that you guys wanted to have in there, so that's what we did.
I appreciate the heads up. I am not going to comment on that. One other item. I'll be gone until leaving at dark 30 tomorrow morning and be back on the 29th of November late. I'll be in Hawaii, and it's a dirty job, but somebody has to do it, so I volunteer.
So you'll be out the 5th as well?
No, I'll be back on the 29th of November.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Would have liked to have stayed over till December 29th, but
Well, I'll be back there in January for a Civil Air Patrol conference. There again, somebody had to do it.
I don't think your plane holds enough fuel to get over there.
Boy, it's a stretch. You have to catch the winds just right.
Really well.
And their headwinds. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood that council is invited to this. We would love to hear what you have to say, and staff also. Mitch? December 3rd, Saturday, is Christmas ships down at the port, which is fun because they open the meeting room, which has all glass on the wall. You can see from inside where it's warm and dry. And they usually serve hot chocolate and things like that also. So it's, if you want to see the Christmas ships, the Port of Camas-Washougal is an ideal place to see it. That's pretty much it. We have a meeting before here, a council meeting the 5th. The next RTC meeting is not until the 6th. That's all I've got.
Dan? Bridget?
I wanted to point out that Washoe High School, like we have done in many years past, is doing Stuff the Bus. And so far we've collected a lot of different things. Before we focused a lot more on bringing cans of food, but now we're kind of focusing on bringing scarves, hats, other things that people might need. And everybody's pitching in, and I think it's really a great thing. So to have that for the people in our community.
And what's the date of Stuff the Bus this year? What's the weighing date?
That's a good question. I do not know the exact date. I think we have either a week or another week, 2 weeks.
We do also have a collection box right up there in the lobby for folks to bring their items in.
It makes it tough when you're doing scarves that doesn't weigh anything close to what vegetables do.
It's true.
A question, do you take cash donations?
I think
Yes.
we do. Yes, I do believe so.
Is there anybody here tonight that could take a cash donation before I leave town? Margaret, you
You can write a
volunteered. There
check.
you go.
You can write a check.
Actually, a school employee, so I can do that, yes.
I appreciate it.
Was it every dollar equals a pound? Something like that? Okay, anything else?
I have one thing, one little detail on the Christmas parade. I have the banner,
Oh, excellent.
and I can be there.
You stole the banner?
It's just been sitting in my garage since the last Christmas parade. So I guess I just
Are
bring the
you,
banner to the parade, huh?
are you going to be in the parade?
Yeah.
Okay. For Rose, can we get a quick show of hands? Who wants to be in the parade for council?
I think I can.
Which day
Count
is
Joyce
it again?
in.
I might be able to. I'm not sure.
December 3rd.
She's always in it.
I'm sorry, December
Lights
8th.
on the banner.
December 8th.
What's that?
You have to have lights on the banner.
Yeah, the lights are with it.
And I've
I hope
got
they still
more,
work.
Batteries?
I've got more lights at home.
Okay,
If I come, I'm bringing my kids and we're throwing candy, because we were like the only ones that didn't have any candy to throw out to anybody.
Has to be
So I'll bring
under-
candy and stuff too.
Allowed.
Yeah.
Battleground is picky about that in their parades.
Oh, no candy?
Yep.
Oh,
Our rules say you can throw candy, but it has to be from underhand and only from walkers, not from a vehicle.
It's not in code.
No, no.
or like guidelines. Any other last minute items? I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We are adjourned. Thank you.